It's me, Pat the Sound Guy, with packages. Here's the deal. The Craftsman LT4000 we worked on the other day, he runs pretty good. Except, remember I mentioned the fuel pump is a problem on these things, and I had a trick for, you know, keeping it running, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. Well, guess what? There's a part, there's another part. That fuel pump is finally done, as far as I can tell. You see me driving away in the other video? I got off mowing for a few minutes, and all of a sudden, it starts to dies. No more fuel. You put a bunch of air pressure into the fuel tank through the top of the fuel cap. There's a vent hole there, so you blow a little air in there, prime the pump again. It'll run for a minute or so, and then it'll die. Rinse, repeat, mouth resuscitation, basically. So that's how I got to get it back over here from across the street. And so I got on looking at my part suppliers and all the different part suppliers. These pumps for these mechanical fuel pumps for these things are ghastly, the prices. Just ridiculous how expensive they are for a simple fuel pump. Now, you can buy those inexpensive, well, that's way less expensive pulse pumps. And, you know, there's videos out there on taking and making a block-off plate with a hose barb on it to give you pulses from the crankcase. That's fine. And then you say, okay, you hook the pulse line up to the fuel pump and you put the in line and it pumps fuel, no problem. That's how the green machine works. It's got one of those pulse pumps on it. That's how it always functioned. And I put one of those nice new Briggs style ones on it, the black ones on it, from the old metal one that was on that crow. Same problem kind of thing. Years ago, and I licked it with the new pulse pump. But it always had a pulse pump, so I had a pulse line. Well, this has mechanical fuel pump. So we'll have a look at the fuel pump in a minute. And the prices, like I said, are ridiculous. So I went on to Amazon because I don't always order parts on Amazon, because sometimes they're not the best, but I bet you there's no way that this is a different fuel pump from what I would get in the aftermarket to go on this thing. So there's a whole fuel pump with all of the different fittings. It looks identical to what I would order from Sten's, Rotary, Oregon, all that stuff. I mean, we're talking, by the time, if I would sell the fuel pump from my supplier retail, you're talking closer to 200 bucks by the time you mark it up a bunch and yada yada yada. The time I get it, you know, it'd be the ballpark. It wouldn't quite be 200 bucks, but it'd be, you know, at least 175 bucks at least. So my cost is ridiculous, and I'm like, well, it's hard to find the diaphragm. So there's the actual rebuild kit, the fuel pump diaphragm for that mechanical fuel pump. So we're going to go through and try rebuilding the pump with the aftermarket parts from Amazon, because, well, this was, I think it was 15 bucks plus tax for the kit. It's a Kohler for this CV series engine. I said it's not the easiest thing to find if you go through the Kohler books to try and find this, or the Kohler website with their parts diagrams and stuff, to try and get one of these diaphragms, because it's ridiculous. You should have to pay, you know, 150 bucks or upwards of that to just fix a simple fuel pump on a whole machine like this. It might not be worth it to you. I mean, it would be worth it to me. I would spend it, but I kick myself for doing it. Even though I love this thing, I would go and, you know, if I couldn't get stuff like this to do this, I would, expensive like this, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't rebuild stuff. So there's the fuel pump diaphragm. And it comes with a spring and the diaphragm and a gasket for down there. So we'll have a look at how that works. So we'll try that pump first, the pump diaphragm first, and then if that doesn't work, we'll also take a look at a new mechanical fuel pump. So I want to show you guys, you know, the different scenarios, because not everybody wants to create and build a block-off plate. You know, it's not the hardest thing to do in the world. Look at that, they even give you rubber gloves so you don't get your hands dirty putting a new pump on. I might even use those. That's pretty cool. So there's all the different fuel fittings and a new gasket. Not sure what the circlip's for, what that would be for, but you know, it's in the kit in case your application needs it. And there's the mechanical fuel pump itself. Looks like a lot like you'd have on an old car. So that's definitely feels like it's in good shape. We may just go over the bench and pull this apart, because we're going to have to pull it apart, I believe, anyway. Let's just go back to the engine here, and let's have a look at how this might fit.
All right, I gotta jump in. I'm editing the video, and I gotta fix a boo-boo with pricing. All right, so my prices have come down a lot on these fuel pumps. I'm over here on the computer screen here. This is the proper part number. I finally searched it out. For some reason, I ordered the wrong part. So, yeah, so be it. So, that's part of what the video is about, is me ordering the wrong part and making it work. Because maybe you can only get the wrong part that has all the bits and pieces to make your application work. So, let's go look and see here on the old interwebs. This is Canadian pricing. And these are retail prices. We've got the different websites that you might order that part from. There's a OEM Kohler pump for this tractor, for this engine. You know, almost $110. $103.23 seems to be the retail pricing that everybody's going by. So all these three sites are all MTD themselves. Cub Cadet is MTD, MTD Parts is MTD, and Troy-Bilt is also MTD. So that's why they're all the same price. But that's the going rate for the OEM pumps. And so my pricing has actually come down a lot. My retail pricing would be a lot less than these prices. So still, it's become a lot more affordable than I thought, because the last time I had looked these prices up a while back, they were a lot higher than they are now. So this is a good thing. But also, if you look on the Amazon, I think the current pricing for the aftermarket one for the proper correct pump for this CV series engine is about 21 bucks Canadian. Not bad. So really affordable. Would have been easier for me to buy that proper pump, and I wouldn't have to go through all this refit process. And let's just have a look at that pump. Here we are. We are in the Amazon listing that I should have ordered. How I messed up, I don't know, but it's a boo-boo. I messed up. I'm going to own it. So here you go. Not a bad price for that. That's the proper part. I wouldn't have had to do any modifying to this one. It came with the right fittings, this one. So there you have it. Anyway, back to the video. Thanks for letting me fix my boo-boo, and we'll go back to the video.
There we go. See, that looks just like that pump in there, but you have to keep in mind this is meant for many different applications, and it was used right back to the K-series engines right from the 70s. I think they used very similar pumps on a lot of these engines. So these are meant to go in different orientations. So this block comes off, and you can rotate it. 10mm socket. They're not even that tight on the engine. Our catch basin. And then we can take that, bust that off of there. Okay, pull those two clips off of that line. Oh, let's see. We may be rebuilding this because this has a different arm on it. Huh, imagine that now. And that's why I ordered both. Fuel pump and the rebuild kit, because we might be able to use the other pump on the back side of this to rebuild it. Alright, here we are at the bench, and if you can see, I have marked these nice, wonderful, awesome arrows with silver Sharpie for the direction of the fuel flow. That's very important. So the orientation of the pump on the engine is like this, but except you have these inlet and outlet facing up. So the fuel comes in a 90 degree at the bottom, goes in the fuel outlet here, and then goes out the top with a straight through to be a 1/4 inch fuel line. So you want to take this apart, and we're going to have a look at this to make sure that it matches what the... Okay, here's something to be aware of when you're putting this pump together. I was just reef it on this side because I got this wrong going in there. Be triple, double, quadruple check to make sure that you're going to orientate these fittings correctly. I got this fitting the wrong direction, going like this way instead of this way. And it's as simple as just putting a little grease on that and being very careful to slide this into that clip that's inside there and get the O-ring past the clip really without ripping the O-ring. Make sure you exactly have it exactly orientated exactly where you want it and then snap it in. I snapped it in the wrong way, so I had to pull it back apart and break that clip, which is no big deal. But, you know, if I had realized the first place. So that's going to stay together no problem. This one's clipped in properly, of course. So this one, if I really want this to stay, I just put a dot of super glue here and there and there and there, and this type of plastic, that'll never come apart. So I may do that. But for now, that's not coming out unless you really, really, really pull on it. This one is in there proper. So that's something to be aware of. And we've already orientated, you know, this has got to go on like so. So when you get this, you have to do a little bit of figuring and a little bit of mock-up. Put these screws gently back in. Gently match everything up. It's pretty soft stuff, so they weren't in there tight, so don't over torque them. Just very gently tighten them up. Let's hope that this is going to work properly for us. Here is why I don't like to order things from Amazon unless I'm exactly sure what I'm getting. Go into the whole original fuel pump. So you saw before, there's a little gasket that goes underneath this other check valve. There's the other check valve. It was broken. You saw it in the other part of the video I already shot. It was in one piece, but it wasn't in one piece. It was just holding on by a thread. So there's a little spring here, and there's a piece from it, and that was all put together as one as a check valve. And these little rubber washers were getting too hard to seal up anyway. So this had fallen out of there, not a tight fit. If this was in one piece and sealing properly, I would have been able to put it back together with a sealant on there, like a little bit of that Moto Seal. That might have worked. It might still have needed a new gasket anyway, because this is old and I do have the new gasket, but this gasket and the new diaphragm. So the diaphragm is what pumps and also keeps the oil on the crankcase side of the fuel pump. So that may have been seeping a little bit of oil. We don't know. It's hard to say. But what I did have come up with is I've got my carburetor tester here, and this is the new fuel pump that I have put the fittings in. And if you look on Amazon, I'm having a hard time finding this style fuel pump that came off of the unit. This is what I ordered, me not having a chance to pull this off before I ordered and had a look, because the part numbers all line up and it shows this with the same part numbers as this. So if you see this type of piece that goes on the camshaft with a pump with all the different fittings, it doesn't have the correct fittings to make it all work to line it up on that particular engine that I have. So here's the thing: if you were to test one of these, there's a few things you can do. If you want to test with the one of these pressure testers for the carburetor, I just got this recently. I always had to go without it. You saw my little quick short the other day about testing carburetors in the mouth. That's how I used to do it forever. But this way, we've got a pressure tester, so we can say let's just put about 4 pounds or so. So that's the outlet. This shows you that the check valves work. I put just about 4 pounds, which is about what this will pump up to on the outlet, and it's holding fairly okay. Not too bad. Probably would hold better if I was putting that clamp on there. So that's not too bad. It's holding pressure. So that shows that the check valve going back is working. And also we can, if I put that back on again, we'll put this back on here, and we can see we can pump the fuel pump. Let's see if you can see that. And you can pump the fuel pump manually and see if it goes up to the 3 pounds or almost 4 pounds or whatever you would get. And it holds. So you can pump the fuel pump, test it, see how well it holds. It's about 4 pounds is what this pump it up to. That's the whole new fuel pump. So here's where I had to go astray. And also you can check the inlet and put a couple PSI on it just to see if the diaphragm is okay and not leaking out the back. Put about that 3 or 4 pounds into it. And it holds your finger on the outlet. So we know this new fuel pump, or if it was the old one, if it passed all those tests, you know it's going to work. Now let's move on to what my adventure has been this evening in making this be a rebuild kit, basically, for the original pump. So let's pull this new pump apart. So we've already gone through my adventure with getting the fittings in properly and how that works, because it was a little unclear how it worked. You just gotta be very careful. A bit of grease and putting the fittings in. Don't do what I did and get this in wrong. Triple, quadruple check it so you don't have to break it and yada yada yada. Anyway, here's a nice new diaphragm. We do have a new diaphragm over sitting on the seat of the tractor, of course. So this comes apart. Give it a twist. See where that T of the original diaphragm and the new diaphragm, how they go together with the spring. So there's the internals. So we're gonna discard this because this doesn't fit. No problemo. We got a new diaphragm. I did try with the old diaphragm. It kind of worked okay. But what we're going to do is we've got the original body here and the new valve body. Okay, so this goes on here like that. Now I started to put together and figured out that the holes in this new one don't line up exactly with the holes in this. So here's what we had to do. Originally I thought I could clamp it with a pair of vice grips and a clamp or something to put it on and just drill those to match with the two valve bodies put together and just use one as a template to drill it out. Didn't work. It's close, but no cigar. So what I ended up having to do is grab the rotary tool, aka Dremel, just whatever brand it is, it's a rotary tool, and kind of measured out how I had to wall out the holes. I put the little diamond bit in there, use whatever works. Your drill bit would probably work too, and get those holes walled out to get so they lined up with this body. So this goes on the engine like so. This goes on here like so, with the diaphragm and gasket in between. And I even took and clearanced a little bit here. I'm sure I was very careful not to go through those holes, to make a hole through the side of that body there. But just clearanced that little bit. And I took each one of the original fasteners and put it in the drill with a file and took that head off of those castle screws a little bit, the little flange off of there, just a little bit, so it would clearance in the body here. So that was how I made it all line up. Now what we're going to try and do, I had it together with the original gasket and diaphragm, and it seemed to pump okay. But we're going to try it with the new diaphragm and see what happens. And put it back together and see what we get. So I do this way. And this goes in that slot. T goes in there like that. Turn it. Push and turn. And there you go. That seems to line up. The holes don't line up too badly. And let's put this together like so. Take a little bit to get. So like I said, I've had this test fit already, and it was pumping just fine. So that's why it would kind of work, but not, and it would kind of stay kind of working once it got some little fuel through it, the old pump. So now I just got to do a little bit of finagling to get these screws into the diaphragm and make it all line up. And so it's up to you whether you want to go this route to fix this or not. Like I said, there is the making a block off plate with a hose barb in it and putting a different style, like putting a pulse pump on it instead of the mechanical one. That's completely up to you whether you want to go that route or not. I didn't feel like going that route just because, well, this almost feels just as easy. And I think the average folks are going to have, if you could do this with the drill bit and your drill, I'm sure that would work just fine to wall those holes out. It might just take a little bit of futzing with it. Now, if this works properly, this might be a little easier than having to fabricate. Just modify this a little bit to rebuild your old pump if you can't get the exact right pump and you want to buy one that's inexpensive. Like I saw them with this kind of style head on it without the right fittings for about 21 bucks. But basically all I needed was this. And it's certainly better than 160 bucks or something for even an aftermarket one. So this is something that's not too difficult. Just took me a little bit of figuring out, a little bit of fuss. And we're just going to put this together with the new diaphragm and see what we get. See if it holds pressure better than the other one did. And just a little bit of time and thought. Putting this together, figuring it out. Oh, aren't I a boob? I wasn't paying attention. Like I said, double, triple check everything. This has to be rotated one little bit. Duh. Been a long day, so it's okay. It's okay. We won't let it get to us. Holes line up pretty good. It's always an adventure. Taking old machines and retrofitting parts and testing them out. Like I said, it's up to you whether this will be the repair you want to do or you want to use a pulse pump. I think we'll get around to making a block off plate with the hose barb on it. But for now, this is a lot less fabricating, even though that's not that difficult to do. But this is, I think it's almost a little simpler to do. Or if you find the exact right pump from Amazon or eBay like that, if that fits exactly for your application, well, then great. You can get you up and run on your older engine. I really like that old Kohler engine. It seems to run really well. And hydraulic lifters in it. And it's a nice little engine. It's got to get the oil change in it so I don't disintegrate everything. There we go. There we go. Get these tightened up so everything lines up. Kitty corner. Snug them down. We're going to snug them all tight at once. I'm just going to gently go around here and see if we can get it so it's evenly tight. And try not to strip the plastic holes out. Let's see what we get with our that diaphragm there. So we know the new pump in its original form worked quite well. So let's try this here. Seat that diaphragm. All right, so there's our fuel flow in the inlet. That's how it goes on the engine like that. So let's see here. Feel air pumping out against my face. Let's put our tester on there again. Let's see if this does the trick. Pump it by hand on the... Oh, look at that. We're getting a solid 4 pounds and it's staying there. Bang. It seems to hold steady pressure when you pump it up. So that's good. That means it's holding a solid pressure. Remember that all sit there, Rice. And let's just have a little bit of thing here. Put it on the inlet, block the outlet, our finger, and see if it holds a little bit of... Holds 4 pounds. Perfect. So I think that is going to be just jam dandy. So there you go. A rebuilt Kohler fuel pump. Took a little figuring.
Thanks for coming along for the ride. I'm going to go bolt this on. Let's try it out. Even though it is almost 10 o'clock at night, let's just go bolt it back on, see what we get. Here we are outside. We had to put the vehicle back in. And we've got this gasket surface cleaned. This gasket surface cleaned. We've got the new gaskets to put on there. That's ready to go. We've got a new piece of fuel line to go on the top of the pump to match that metal steel line there. So that's going there. Ouch! June bugs are out. June bugs are out. Scare the heck out of me. We got our two fasteners to put back in. Let's just fire this on here. I did put a little bit of lubricant on in the fuel line before I put this back together to make that easier to assemble it. I did. Strip out those holes, make sure those are going in there nicely. Crank those in by hand. Not too tight because they're plastic. Flange on that, we don't want to crush it. Ta-da! Okay, let's pull our two clips out here. Little clamps. And get our pliers on there. And that clips on here. And there. A little clippy do on here too. Seal that up nice. There we go. Put our catch basin underneath for our other clear fuel line. Put our finger over the end of it. Drain a little fuel out. Prime that line a little bit. Put our fuel line on here. Done. Nice to be able to see our fuel in the fuel line. Boy, those June bugs are going crazy out here. Okay, let's pull all the tools off of this machine, even though it is 20 after 10 at night. And let's just crank it right quick and see if it starts and put it back where it belongs. I call that a success. Started right up, a little choke. Had to baby the choke a little bit just to make it suck some fuel up, but it primed itself. It hasn't done that since I got it. Well, we'll put this thing away and we'll get back to you tomorrow. Well, there you have it. I call that a win. I just mowed the back 40 here for about 15 or 20 minutes. Started up just like that. It's a happy running engine now. We've got the oil extractor running. Change the oil change right now. I'll put the proper item in the description from Amazon for the proper pump that I did manage to find today. For some reason, Amazon is strange. Sometimes you'll search one way one day and you won't find what you're looking for. The next day you will. Thanks for watching, everyone. Remember, don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to leave some comments. Don't forget to leave the awesome thumbs up. And remember, as always, rock on, and we'll see you on the next one.